Well, hello everyone. We let you stream in. I'm here with Monique. We're going to introduce ourselves in a few seconds, but thank you for joining us. We'll be talking today about Airbnb, the new Airbnb host fee, just some housekeeping. This is being recorded, so it does mean it should be 45 minutes long, but if you can't stay, it's being recorded. We'll send you the recording, but do stay. We'll take your questions. So you want to stay until the end. So this is being recorded again. So hopefully you can deliver all the things. So what we can do, Monique, why don't we get started and with the slides, couple of slides. Again, we'll try to make it as fun as possible. If that can be a fun topic, but at least as clear as possible, because I think it's all about clarity. Let's get going and thank you all for joining. All right, as usual, struggling with my slides, but
You've
where
got it.
I got this. I got this. All right, Monique, let's get started. So,
All right.
well, go ahead. So yeah, so I'm on the left, so I get started. So I'm Thibault, I'm the head of product marketing at PriceLabs. Happy to be here, Monique.
Hey everyone, I'm Monique. I'm one of the senior solutions consultants at PriceLabs. Thanks for having me and thanks for joining.
All right. So, what we be covering today?
All right. Today we're going to cover what the announcement was from Airbnb about the fees. I'm sure that's why you're all here. We're going to talk a little bit about why they're doing this. There's a couple reasons. We'll go over them. We will give you some actual math examples so that you know exactly what calculations to make when adjusting your fees. We'll talk about what the repercussions are for you as a host or property manager. And then we'll just go over the takeaways at the very end. So hopefully this will be short and sweet, and we should have some time for questions.
Exactly, and feel free to ask your questions. It could be in a chat, could be this, but I think we'll be there. But first, maybe I can start with asking a question before we get started. So maybe who among you, so who feels like, you can feel free to write in the chat, right? Who feels like ready? You've taken the actions, you feel ready. And who among you feels like, yes, I need clarity, I need to know what to do. Feel free to reply. This again, no wrong or right answer. Just helps us also feel a bit the room and see how we can assist you. So feel free to reply in the chat. And Monique, I can't see the chat, so as I'm presenting, let me know what you see here.
Yeah, I've got it. A lot of people here talking about how they need clarity. Hopefully we'll be able to give that to you today. Some people saying they think they did it correctly, but they aren't sure, so they're looking to affirm that. Um, Someone saying, yeah, they want to understand what exactly to do with the cleaning fees. So we will cover that. But yes, most people just saying that they need clarity overall in general.
Okay, and reassurance. And so normally in the room, I'm guessing we have mostly US property managers. So if you're not, let us know as well. But let's, for the moment, just get started with this. So what's happening, Monique?
All right, so let's break down the change a little bit. What exactly did Airbnb announce? So a couple months ago, they announced that all PMS-connected hosts will be moving to the host-only fee model. We have seen Airbnb push for this in the past few years, talking about how it could potentially improve your ranking and things like that. And now they're making it official. They're going to move everyone who's connected to a PMS to that host-only fee. So what's the timeline? As of August 25th, anyone who was a new PMS connected host automatically got started on the host fee, so that's all they know. October 27th, which is coming this weekend, this is when the rest of us who are connected using a PMS are going to get moved to the host only fee. And then on December 1st, it's actually going to be following for everyone else as well. So even if you're not using a PMS and you are connected directly to Airbnb, and that's how you're managing your single listing or your listings, you'll also be affected by this. The timeline is just slightly delayed for those people. The split fee is not disappearing for everyone. Not exactly sure off the top of my head what countries and locations this is not happening for. I know that this has already happened in the past for Europe. And now it's happening for the US specifically.
Yeah, exactly as Monique said. Again, normally if you if you're in this webinar, I believe that you're using either a channel manager or a PMS to connect to Airbnb. So if you're a PriceLabs customer, we send your prices to your PMS, for example, and they get carried over to Airbnb. That should be the thing. You are in this case, you're going to be in a host only fee model. The split fee model, the 3% one still exists, will still be existing, right? It's confirmed. Just Airbnb have been badly wording all this. There's some confusion here, but that's only for people who are not using a PMS or channel manager, or yeah, it's saying, or we're not already under the host only fee and we're not using a PMS for some reason. For some reason, a few people were under the host fee model and we're not using a PMS. They can't go back to 3%. That's why there's some confusion because there's stuff. Anyway, to make it simple, if you are in the US PMS connected, you're in for a change.
Yeah. And to further clarify, as of December 1st, this is going to impact everyone in the US, regardless of whether you're connected to a PMS or not. So upcoming this weekend for the PMS connected hosts and then non-PMS host only hosts, December 1st, that's when you'll have to make the change as well.
So why is Airbnb doing this? Well, quite quickly. The first one, when they did the change in Europe, for example, 4 years ago, so was the case. I was connected. So what they really clearly communicated around is that there's been studies showing that even if the total price of a stay of two stays the same, but one has a service fee or guest fee in there, the one that's showing a service fee is converting less. So at the time, they were showing that people who listings who not display a guest fee convert better because it looks cheaper in a way, or there's like this one less fee. And quite frankly, I worked at Booking.com in the past, who also had this model of taking no guest fee. We also had studies, experiments showing that indeed it converts better. So in a way, it should be converting better for them, and normally also for those listings going to this model. So it's a change, but hopefully positive for you. A second one is, I just said, Booking.com, for example, that's their model. That's been the winning model for a long time. In a way, Airbnb is aligning to this. So kind of means as well, by the way, if you have a PMS and you're selling to different channels, you kind of aligning what you're doing on Booking, on whatever you're doing with Booking.com in a way. So it's not that surprising. Last thing, which is a bit sneakier, if you look about this, if Airbnb wants to increase the take up the take rate, whatever they take on a booking, it's becoming easier for them. What I mean by here, it's no conspiracy theory. What I just meant to say, for example, in the rest of the world, the average was 15%, and the rest of the world is also moving to 15.5%. It's an increase, right, for the hosts. Maybe they're going to stay at 15.5, maybe they move to 16% at some point. I have no clue, no idea. But I just say it's just easier because it's on our side, on the host side, rather than on the guest side. But again, no conspiracy theory here. I just reflecting this because that's what we've seen in the rest of the world was already on this model. It's just you can then increase easier probably than on the guest side. If there's no question on this, let's start with the answer already, right? What should you do? Before we get into any math, let's start with the answer. It's kind of math I like. Just give me the answer and maybe I will listen to the explanation. So basically, if you're connected using a PMS or channel manager, there's probably a chance that you have a markup, right? Basically in your PMS, you can add a certain percentage that will modify the price that then is sent out from your PMS to a channel, right? And sometimes, you're doing this probably, right? You have different markups, whether the price goes to Verbo or to Airbnb or to Booking, you have different markups, right? Well, this markup now that you have in your PMS, right, when you send the price over to Airbnb, should be 18.34%. 18.34%. We'll go back we'll touch upon the cleaning fees, for example. But as you know, Airbnb indeed is commissioned, right? Takes a commission from not only the 90 rates, but also any fee you put out there, right? HOA fee, cleaning fee, all those fees that you can put in, you actually allowed to put on Airbnb, they'll take a commission. So it does mean you need to also multiply them. Um, Depending on your settings, we'll talk about this in the PMS what to do, but sometimes you have to do it manually. So multiply this as well, or you have to do it manually. But here the math is a bit different. Let's just say that maybe your cleaning fee was completely manual and you had to you already had to factor in some kind of commission from Airbnb, that the fact they were taking 3%. So you multiply by here 1.1485. Basically, you increase by 14.85%. Why not 18%? Well, just because maybe you are already factoring in a cost. If you are not factoring any commission from Airbnb and a cleaning fee, then indeed, if there's no, then you do increase by 18.34%. I hope this is being clear. Again, we go back into this as well, but just to hear, yes, you do have to move on your fees as well. You need to adapt them as well. And again, just obviously, if you had no markup on your, if you're not taking any not taking account host fee before, you need to increase drastically. I don't think here we have anybody who's not using a PMS or channel manager. But if you're in a situation and you connect directly to your PriceLabs to Airbnb, you're using the official connection between Airbnb and PriceLabs. We're an official partner, very happy for that. You don't need to do anything in Airbnb. Well, sorry, you need to increase your price by 1.1834%. There's a point here, should not be here, but it's one period here, 1.1834% because you need to increase that. Okay, so what we'll talk about indeed, so the guest fee is disappearing, so you can feel that there's room for you to increase your prices, right? And hopefully to make up for this cost. So we will see the math, right? So that hopefully in the US, you end up with, in the end, charging the guests as much as you did, not more, or no less than in the past, and your payout stays the same. That's kind of what you want, well, for peace of mind, clarity. How do we do this? Again, we'll get into the math for the why, but I hope it's clear so far. Monique, anything to add on this from your side?
We do have a bunch of questions coming in. I want to make one thing clear in case it wasn't clear from what we were saying earlier. For the people who are not connected with the PMS, it's affecting everyone who is already on the host only fee,
Yeah,
not the people who are currently doing the split fee.
yeah,
I know
exactly.
it can be a little confusing.
And split fee is staying, to be clear, right? I just right before the session, I went back. Airbnb has clarified this. It's a bit more clear, it is staying split fee, right? To be clear.
Yeah,
So that's
it's staying for those non-PMS connected hosts that are currently doing the split fee.
correct. And it's that's hope. I hope we see us repeating this because we know it's confusing, right? It took us some time, even us, right? Not that we're super smart, but just start, we had to sit and look. What does it actually mean, right? Some
Yeah.
this fine prints. All right. So here again, you may have a surprise, like why is my markup not 15.5%? I don't know whether we're getting the question or it's not clear. Um, uh, let's do some simple math here, but not with 15.5% because it's not the easiest thing to to think through. Let's pretend for just this slide, just a minute. Again, we're just pretending here, right? That Airbnb is setting their host fee to 10%, just for the sake of making our math easier, right? So let's say, okay, the host fee is 10%, and I still want to get my $100 after Airbnb takes out its fee. So let's imagine my nightly price is $100 per night. If my markup was, if I say, oh, host fee is 10%, so markup should be 10%, what I would do then, I would increase by my nightly price by 10%. So I'll go from 100 to 110. Okay, let's do 110. But if Airbnb, let's imagine now Airbnb takes 10% out of that, and 10% of 110 is 11. So I do end up with $99, not the 100 I wanted, right? So you can feel already that indeed if you set your host the markup as the host fee, that doesn't work out. That's not what you want, right? You feel already you need to increase. And actually, indeed, if you increase by not 10%, by 11, but 11.11% exactly, you get a price that if you take 10% out of that, you get back to 10%, $200. So anyway, just for like the instinctively now with 10% it's easier to feel that okay, the markup should be higher than host fee, right? The markup should be higher than host fee. So and that's again, and so why this confusion? I think it's. Do you want to take this one, Monique, or should I take it? How do you want it?
Yeah, I can take this. So I think, yeah, the big confusion comes from the fact that a markup does not equal what the fee is. And I think I see a ton of people confused about this and why they need to mark it up more and how to calculate that. So the old split fee was only 3%. So the markup was really tiny. So think about this, for example, you are charging $200 a night. That's what you want to net, right? You're doing a 3% markup for Airbnb on your PMS, which is marking up that nightly rate to 206. When you calculate what 3% of 206 is, it's $6 and change. I actually had it up. It's $6.18. So when Airbnb takes that 3% of 206, you're only missing out on 18 cents. So you're netting, 199, 80 something, 82. That's why the markup needs to be different. When it's only 3%, it's a very minuscule amount that a lot of people are willing to ignore. But when we move to this 15.5% markup, that makes it very difficult. So if I take that same number, 200, and apply 15.5% to my nightly rate, that gives me,
That's. Shall I move on to this slide?
yeah, we can do it right here.
There we go.
And then we can just go back to finish up that slide. But yeah, so when I take that 200 and I add that 15.5, if I'm marking it up correctly, the subtotal should be 236.68. If I didn't use that 18%, I would only be adding around 23. Let me make sure I'm doing that right. Oh no, hang on. 200 times 0.155. I would only be adding $31. So there's a little bit more of like a discrepancy between that 36.68 and the 31, right? And then when Airbnb takes the amount, it would be a lot less. So by doing the 18.34%, I get 236.68, which when Airbnb then calculates what the fee is that they're going to take, 15.5%, that 15.5% equates that 36.68, and I still net 200. The guest at the end of the day sees no change if you mark it up correctly in what their final price is. So use the 18.34% markup. It ends up a little bit higher than what it would be if you were just using the fee, but the net, which is what's important, gives you that nightly rate of 200 for your payout. Hopefully that makes a little more sense.
It does, right? It does. And again, so say again for the cleaning fees, the other fees again, right? It depends on your setup, right? If in your PMS, the PMS applies the markup to your cleaning fee, you're good. This will multiply. If not, you do have to increase it. Again, as I said before, if you are, if your cleaning fee it was not taking into account Airbnb's commission at the time, maybe now is the time to start doing this, and then you do multiply by, you do add 18.34% to multiply by 1.1834. If you already had built in the fact before in the cleaning fee that Airbnb will be taking around 3% out of your cleaning fee, then you don't increase by as much, you increase by a little less, around 14%, 14.85%, right? To again be at that price. I hope it's clear. Again, this is being recorded. You get the slides to think through this with your team, and even at the end we'll do some takeaways, right, manually. But I hope this clear from the questions, Monique, for the moment? Anything we need to add to this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I'm looking at a lot of questions coming in that we'll get to at the end.
Okay, so let's finish. I think it's almost last slide before we go in live and go to the questions. So let's do that. So what should we do? What should we do, Monique?
Yeah. Okay, so if your PMS allows for channel-specific markups, where you can do a different markup for Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, your direct booking website, set your markup at 18.34% for Airbnb. If your PMS does not allow for channel-specific markups, there are not many, but there are a few, then you will want to adjust your base and minimum prices in PriceLabs to account for that markup so that you still net the same payout on Airbnb. However, word of caution, this does affect all channels if you're not able to do it as a channel-specific markup. So while your pricing on Airbnb would end up being the same payout, your other channels might be affected. So think cautiously about that if you're doing a markup across the board, especially if Airbnb is not your primary booking source, because then it could really affect some of your other booking channels. Cleaning and extras, you may have to do that manually if you're not able to add that specifically in your PMS across the different channels. So some PMSs allow you to set different fees based on the channel. If not, you may have to go directly into Airbnb to add the markup for your cleaning and other fees there. Taxes are excluded. So you will not get charged the fee on your fee will not be charged inclusive of the taxes. So you do not have to worry about that. But it is a good time to go in and double check that all of your taxes are configured correctly. Some managers are and have been adding a little margin of error to cushion commission in cleaning fees and other fees. So as Airbnb starts to make these changes, let's be realistic. I don't think this is the last time that they're going to increase their host fee. Keep that in mind. You may want to start building that commission into some of your fees as you grow and expand. That way we can account for changes in the future.
All right, I think that's about it for the slides. Oh, okay, there we go. Questions. Let me just get out of this so we can see our smiling faces, and actually we can get right now into your questions. Monique, already you see a first questions you want to take?
Yes, let me
Oh,
go back to
I'm checking the questions as well. There's so many of you. Thank you all, right? I see there's more than 70 of you. You guys asking questions. Thank you for being there. We have now 20 minutes to go through the questions.
Yeah, so we should be able to get to most of them, if not all. So clarity again, this is only happening for PMS connected hosts who are currently on the split fee as of this weekend, October 27th. And then on December 1st, they're standardizing the amount for non-PMS connected hosts who are already on the host only fee. Let's see. Catherine asked the question, is there an advantage to doing it in the PMS versus PriceLabs directly? Similar to a question from Laura. You want to take this or I can take this?
Yeah, I was about to say yes. Go ahead. Indeed, it's very important, and just for us to repeat, because I think in this also webinar we're trying to cover all cases. But if we just sum up to more exactly as Monique said, most of you here today, you're going to the host only fee, right? And most of you are in this. I think checking with you, Monique. Most PMSs allow for users to add a markup there, right?
Yes. So if you are using a PMS, you will not want to set this in PriceLabs. You'll want to set this on your PMS to be channel specific because like I said before, it would then impact the rates on all of your other channels. So really, if you're using a PMS, there is not an advantage to setting the markup in PriceLabs directly. The advantage is to use your PMS and do that channel specific markup. Second question we've got here. So Airbnb will be collecting their 15.5% fee on cleaning fees also.
Mhm.
Yes. Cleaning fees, pet fees, linen fees, resort
HOA fee. Yeah.
fees,
Mm.
anything that's getting, and most of these at this point are rolled into the nightly rate when they're displayed in the US, right? So that's why at the end of the day, this fee is getting tacked on top of everything. So yes, that's why you do need to calculate that markup for all those additional fees.
I see Josh has a question, which is if we were already paying 3% and we were not marking it up to have the guest cover it, should we just then move to 14.34%, right? Not 18.34. Um, mm, you kind of were losing out. You were losing out on an amount, and I don't know. To me, it's especially if you're comparing then with other channels, right? It does mean that then you end up earning a bit less from Airbnb because you're letting Airbnb get 3% or 3 points actually of your 3% of your booking, right? Then for the same booking on a different channel, you end up having more because maybe you're saying in the right markup. So I'm not too sure about that. Monique, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're already eating that 3%, technically you could do the adjustment to only account for, where you're still paying 3% out of your pocket, and then the rest of it is passed on through the guest or passed on to the guest essentially through the markup. I mean, I don't really see an advantage or disadvantage in that case. It's really just a matter of choice when it comes to your business and your profitability and what your strategy is. This does somewhat tie into a question that Adam asked. Adam said there will be a large number of hosts that do not change their pricing to account for the fee for the increased costs and loss in revenue, which will effectively drive down pricing for Airbnb customers. In the short term, do you expect to see lower price per night suggestions by PriceLabs to account for this? I don't think that the recommendations from PriceLabs are going to be affected by hosts who don't make an adjustment. That's because when we give you your rate recommendations, we're not basing your rates off of other people's rates. We're basing your rates off of other people's occupancy. What I do think could happen though is that for a temporary period of time, those hosts that don't make the adjustment could potentially have more appealing listings because their rates will be cheaper. But I think those property managers who miss this are going to very quickly see their payouts impacted and will probably resort to making the change very quickly. So I do not think that this is going to be like a long-term problem. I think it's going to be an unfortunate learning for a handful of
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
but that's why we're trying to get the information out there to you now.
Exactly. That's why you team, you're here and listening to this, you're taking action. Exactly. Because it happened 4 years ago, right, in Europe. So exactly as you played out, exactly as Monique said, some people didn't move fast enough and got, they saw it fast, right? End of the month, wow. So it's quite fast. Another point, maybe, right? Some people may think, yeah, but people who are staying on a split fee model, they are advantaged during this transition. It's not true, right? Because as you know now, since April, Airbnb is displaying, when you start searching on Airbnb for a date and a place, they start displaying the results with fully loaded price, right? With all the fees in. So regardless whether you are under the split fee model, host fee model, and Airbnb will show the whole host fee on one side, or we show host fee plus guest fee, right? So you're not really at disadvantage. And again, if you go back to what we said at the beginning, according to what I've seen at Booking.com, what Airbnb has been saying, right? Actually, if you have one less line, one less fee, right, you should actually convert better. So again, I don't think you'll be a disadvantage during that moment. I think the only people indeed who may, for whom it will be tricky is people not taking action. But you guys are here, so we should be good.
Yep. Let's see. What questions have we not answered yet?
Also, something I want to add, there's a lot of questions around the cleaning fee, right? Again, here we try to be as we try to go as wide as possible. The best person to tell you how the cleaning fee works in your PMS is certainly your PMS, right? And I'm pretty sure that all the PMSs have ready-made explanation of how it works in their PMS because it's a very common question that would be asked by people every day, right? So they would know whether when you set a cleaning fee in your PMS, whether it's affected on markup or not, or whether you should do it manually, right? So that's I think it's the best source in your specific case, right? Because again, we don't want to think, oh, PriceLabs said this about the cleaning fee. I'm like, if there's a doubt, you don't know, check with the PMS. It's really the best source for this.
Yeah, and Martin asked a question about getting notified that he needed to raise his base price in PriceLabs. I don't know where that notification would have come from. Um,
That could be a nudge, but that's that if it's a that would be one of the
oh
classic
yeah, yeah, yeah.
nudges. Could be right. So what we do at PriceLabs for everyone, right? It is not related to this. What we do sometimes, we look at your base price or minimum price sometimes, and we say, compared to what we see in your market and how demand is shaping or occupancy, the rest, we think your base price should adjust, right? But it's has most more to do how we see the performance of a listing within the market. So it's like your usual performance nudges we give you to help you perform better. It has nothing to do with this Airbnb fee.
Yep, yep, you're right. I wasn't even thinking of nudges because I'm so focused on the markup that I'm not even thinking about things that other people might be seeing. Alexander asked a question about how the split fee of 17.2% and host fee of 18.34% doesn't impact the price the guest will pay. Well, Alexander, right now, the split fee model, it's 3% flat for the hosts, but it can vary what the guest pays. So, Thibaut, do you know the percentage range off the top of your head?
Yeah, usually it's 12 to 14%. So that's a
Yeah.
lot. You do feel you have a lot to make up for. And again, in the math, we have, right? We made so that you get the same payout, and for the guest, it doesn't change almost nothing for nothing. So yeah, hope it's clear.
Yeah. Yeah. So Alexander, like your guests might not always be paying a 12% markup. They sometimes might get a 14% markup. They might get a 13% markup. What Airbnb is looking to do long term, I think, is they're standardizing what exactly that fee is going to be, which is why for the people changing on December 1st, that's why there is a change for the people who are already on the host fee, because I believe, if I'm correct, as of right now, the host fee, even that for the non-PMS connected hosts can vary. Now, December
Yeah.
1st, it's just going to be 15.5%.
It's very true, right? It's again because for the rest of the world, for example, now it's officially 15.5%. Before that, rest of the world, we didn't know. Airbnb was always saying between 14 to 16. Now we know it's 14.5. So actually, in some areas, people who were paying 16, they go back to 15, they go to 15.5, which is good, except Brazil. Brazil is 16%. So just so you know, it's possible that they charge 16, right? They're doing this in Brazil. But again, right? It's just that's just not for the moment. Just focus on what is at hand. Do the right thing, and you can see that we can adapt.
Yeah. So Jenny asked, the cleaning fee will not be added into the total fee that Airbnb creates. No, it will be. And that's why we're suggesting you mark it up, because when they show that final price to your guest, it's including the nightly rates and your cleaning fee and any other fees that you might have on your property. So that's why all of them need to be marked up. That way, when Airbnb takes that total and takes the 15.5%, you've accounted for it across all of your fees.
Yeah, that's really the fully loaded price. That's how Airbnb could do
Yeah.
this as well. It was coming, right? And again, in Europe, they could do this already 4 years ago because by law in Europe, we must display fully loaded price as soon as people start searching, right? If you've been to Europe, when you buy something, for example, you pay the price. You go to the US, you pay the price plus sales tax, for example, right? So in Europe, it's actually even more complete, right? You see the fully loaded price plus tax, for example, when you start searching on Airbnb, right? Now in the US, since April, they display by default the fully loaded price with all the fees, not the tax, with all the fees.
Yes, exactly. Um, Garrett asked, I'm a co-host for 20 plus properties. Do I need to ask property owners to do anything in the listings for the split fee issue? Um, if they are connected via a PMS, they will need to make an adjustment. If they are not connected via a PMS, and they are doing split fee currently, then they don't need to make a change. Let's see. Any other questions that I haven't gotten to? I've kind of been jumping around here, so I am very sorry if I missed any questions.
Let me take a question I see here from Jenny asking about direct bookings. So
Yeah.
it's a very good topic, right? Jenny's asking, so how do I price my direct bookings so that they're cheaper for the guests and pays higher to me? Um, so again, here it's kind of tricky to give an answer that works for everyone, but let's imagine, right? Let's imagine you have PriceLabs connected to your PMS. So we send over the prices to your PMS. And your PMS, as we said, towards sorry, from the PMS send the prices to the channels. If you don't put any markup, all the channels using Airbnb, Booking, for example, and maybe your own website, if your website is connected to your PMS, they're all getting the same price. If your PMS allows to add markups to channels like to Airbnb, as we've seen, 18.34%, it means, and if you do this for every channel, it means that as your website is connected to your PMS, as getting the prices straight from Airbnb, from PriceLabs, you are cheaper because you're not putting any markups to it. I hope it's clear, right, on this. Um, Hope that's clear to hope I'm clear enough. So anyway, so you don't have to do anything basically, right? Hopefully your PMS, when they display prices on your website, they're not adding any markup, so that you're cheaper than the other channels where there is a markup.
Yeah, if anything, I know for myself personally with my listing, the only markup that I have for my PMS or for my direct booking website from my PMS accounts for the credit card processing fee, which is about 3 or 4%.
That's about to say so, right? It's a lot of people do this for. It's not because it's direct bookings that should take no fee, right? That's not exactly what I'm saying, right? You do have a cost of operation. That's a very good one.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's that's more direct booking strategy. Yep.
Yep.
Any other question you see? There's many of you, right, asking questions, trying to, I think, go through a question and group them if we can.
Yeah, let's see.
Please clarify, will Airbnb no longer be showing the guests the cleaning fee? So that's not what we're saying. It's a good question, right? Airbnb will no longer take a guest fee, right? This 12 to 14%. So they won't not display this guest fee line anymore. Now, any other fee, such as cleaning fee, HOA fee, resort fee, for example, they will display it in a breakdown, but already display it in a total stay price as soon as people start searching, right? In search results when they see this.
Yes, exactly. I'm scrolling through. Let's see. Martin asked a question that's not quite related to this, but about including the cleaning fee of $6.95 into his daily prices. We have some tools that'll be coming out for that that'll allow you to build in your fees into your base prices. Keep an eye out on your emails for that. We will be rolling that out over the next few months. As of right now, you could just do it by increasing. It's going to depend, right? Based on like what your average length of stay is. So I won't get too far into it, but just keep an eye out on your PriceLabs emails and alerts from us because we will be rolling out a solution for that.
Yeah. And again, this notion that there's going to be large sale, people will be priced. I see it again coming up. On when I don't know, right? What we have to remember is that 90% of the hosts on Airbnb have one listing. So there's a lot of people out there who, not us, who do have several listings and who are using this. And I also know a lot of people who have multiple properties listings and are not using a PMS either, right? So that's not just people with one listing or who are under this. So there's a lot of people who will still be in the split fee model, right? And there's a lot of them, and they will not be affected by this change. So they will not discount their prices. So as exactly as Monique said, some people may be affected if they don't take action, but I don't think I don't think in markets they present the most of the listing. So hopefully that should not be too much.
Yeah. Adam asked about Verbo's commission and their 3% payment processing to make pricing equal between the two platforms. You would have to do the calculation to see. So Verbo takes an 8% fee essentially. Your markup would be different for Verbo than it would be for Airbnb. I believe it would be, let me just do the math really quick.
Why are we doing this? Because indeed, they let's not say they're cheaper, right? Because what Verbo is doing, they are taking a guest fee. The guest fee is staying on Verbo, and is actually 12 to 15%, if I'm not mistaken. It's actually also very high. So just to be clear, but I guess we all know this. And I don't think I've heard Verbo move for the moment. On the other hand, if they're part of Expedia, so everything's possible.
Yeah, your markup for Verbo would roughly be if it's an 8% markup or if it's an 8% fee, your markup would be roughly 8.5% to account for, the but again, at that amount, it's still fairly small. It's almost negligible. So you just have to calculate it based on which channel we're looking at. And yeah, Ben brings up a good point. ChatGPT is a great resource to actually ask for the math. So that would be really useful for someone who has been covering the 3% themselves to calculate what the markup should be, what the markup should be for different channels. If you need to calculate it for your pet fees, your cleaning fees, things like that, you can run all those different scenarios through either ChatGPT or Claude or whatever one you like to use and get an answer that way.
And the extra tip for me, because I'm always concerned being getting things wrong because I'm supposed to know, I will do this on ChatGPT and then I plug the result into Perplexity and say, fact check this, right? Because Perplexity is really good at finding flaws in reasoning. So sometimes ChatGPT is good, but sometimes ChatGPT just starts interpreting things a bit wider because they've seen things. Perplexity is good at picking up any flaws in logic. So we really want to check that as well. So exactly as Benny said, you use two AI instead of one, and you're good, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story for everyone here should be how important it is to really know your bottom line. Because when it comes time to make adjustments for this, you'll be able to calculate pretty quickly and determine like how much of the fee, if any, you can roll into your own expenses versus how much, you might want to pass on and actually include that markup for, especially for a lot of the people who seem like they have been eating that 3% fee and not doing any markup.
Yeah. And I agree, the tricky bit, that's cleaning fee increasing by some cases, as we said, right, but between 14 and 18%, to make simple. If it's already high and for a very short night stay, yes, that's the thing, right? It's in this case, it's really up to us to know the cost here. And if you had built up indeed, as Monique was advising, right, some kind of margin here, it's okay, but it's indeed it may be tricky, right? That's also where it could be hard to make up for things. So you have to know what's the real cost and what you can do. And on the other hand, inflation is touching everyone. So let's see on this one. So
Yeah.
hopefully, I think, and we're recording this. You should receive the recording by email. You will receive, sorry, the recording by email. I think latest Monday. We'll try to speed it up a bit, but let's see so we can get it in time. I hope you remember 18.34%. I think now you will be dreaming about this tonight. Not too much. As usual, if you have doubts, go about this cleaning fee, go to your PMS, ask them the question about the setups. On the other hand, if you have doubts about PriceLabs, anything we said, support at pricelabs.co is where you should go, and we are happy to answer your questions. I hope it was useful. What else to add, Monique?
Yeah, thank you for having us. Hopefully this was useful and answered some of your questions, but if anything else comes out, I just drop the email address for support in our chat box. So please feel free to reach out to our team. They're standing by and ready to answer your questions.
All right. Thank you, everyone. There's still quite a few of you here. Well, thank you too for attending. You're very much welcome. And you take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
And bye, Monique.